Hey gang, we're now going to take a look at some of the items about sampling risk. And what we're going to look at is we're going to look at some of the sampling risks and possibilities. There are issues related to substantive testing risk and control testing. Let's take a look at this and move to the next item here. Sampling risk. And you'll notice sampling risk in substantive testing can result in the risk of an incorrect acceptance. Your sample said everything was okay, but it didn't catch the errors. Or conversely, the risk of an incorrect rejection. You happen to just by random luck catch all of the mistakes, and it therefore suggested there's multiple more. There were no more, just those. But unfortunately, now you reject it. Let's move on. There's also testing of control risk. That is, when you did the test, you set control risk too low, you should have done more, or you set it too high, and therefore you're ineffective, you're inefficient in your work because you did more work than you needed to. So we're going to take a look at each of those. Let's move on to the next one. Right here, you'll notice the sample indicates that the population is okay or the population is wrong. And then the recorded value of the population. Is it really okay or is it really not okay? Well, notice it says it's okay and it is. The sample says it's okay. Great, we're both in the same boat. But in this case, the sample says it's okay, but it actually was wrong. That's known as the risk of an incorrect acceptance. You'll notice here where the sample says it's wrong, but it's really okay. We just happen to catch all the bad things in the sample. That's the risk of an incorrect rejection. If we say the sample says it's wrong and it was wrong, that's a correct decision as well. So it gives you an idea of how these all face out. Let's go to our next slide. When you're sampling controls as opposed to substantive testing, you're going to sample the control, and it says the control is strong, and it is. Great. But how about the sample says the control is working, it's strong, but it really isn't. You just happen to collect and look at the items that were right, one of the very few. That is the risk of assessing control risk too low. You put too much reliance on the system because your sample said it was okay, but if you really had dug in, you would have found out it was wrong. Conversely, sample indication that it was wrong, that the controls didn't work, but it really was working. You just happened to catch the one or two mistakes made all year. Well, that's the risk of assessing control risk too high. The problem with that isn't that you're going to have a bad audit, it's that you're going to do a lot more work than you need to, as opposed to when it says the controls don't work and they really don't work. Then you've properly assessed the risk. Let's go on to the next area. Let's take a look at an example. An auditor selects 3 out of 18 customers listed in an accounts receivable list. The client's customer list are customers E, J, and M. Let's touch and go on to the next area. So you can see we have all these customers here, and we're going to select E, J, and M. Let's tap again. And there they are, E, J, and M. Those are the ones we're going to test. Let's go on to our next slide and see what happens. Confirmation responses are received. This one was correct. This one was correct, and this one was correct. Sounds like from the test work, this thing is good. We're good with it, right? So let's move on. No errors. Based on this, we believe it's fairly stated. No further testing needed. Notice we did check those 3. Ironically, those were 3 of the only good ones. All of the others, just by happenstance, were wrong. Look at that. All those are wrong. But our sample said everything was right. In this case, we would have accepted that the accounts receivable is correctly reported. This is known as the risk of an incorrect acceptance. Let's go on to the next slide. All right, in example 2, we're going to have the auditor selects 3 out of 18 customers listed for accounts receivable, and they're G, K, and Q. Moving on. So we're going to select them. Let's tap on the next item, and there they are. We're going to select those 3 items right here. So let's go on to our next slide. Based solely on that, the accounts receivable is not fairly stated. Listen to that one, fairly stated. That was good, huh? You'd think I don't even know how to speak English here. Don't tell Pete about this because he'll have a field day on me. So please, our secret that I bundled that up. In this case, customer G said it's wrong. Customer Q said it's right. Customer K said it's wrong. 2 out of the 3 are wrong. Based on this, we're looking at, and we conclude that accounts receivable was stated fairly The actual misstatement is immaterial. Notice here, when we looked at everything else was correct. No other mistakes whatsoever. It just happened that the two wrong items were two of the items we looked at. So in this case, this is the risk of an incorrect rejection. We rejected the balance, and yet it was actually correct. It was only off by an immaterial amount. And as you can see, we've covered all the details that you need to know before you're ready to try another exercise.